Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to why US malls are dying and why European malls aren't. I don't know if this is actually the case. I feel like maybe just shops in general are struggling a lot more in the current sort of world because of online shopping and all that. But this is actually the same person who made Dubai as a parody of the 21st century, which is a video I reacted to over a year ago, and that was a fascinating watch. And yeah, I mean, if that's anything to go off by that video, this should be a good one too. But I know US malls, I don't know, but from what I've seen, US malls are a lot more hectic in terms of like you'll have anything, like you'll have like indoor water parks or indoor theme parks in the US mall. All these kinds of things, like obviously Dubai goes crazy for this kind of stuff, but yeah, US malls are always wild and they're massive too. But we're gonna check this out and see what they go into because I don't know what to expect. I mean, again, maybe it's just malls in general because of the world that we're in now. Again, online shopping, it just makes it. I mean, malls are always still full, right? Whenever I go to the mall, it's still full of people, but I guess maybe compared to how they would have been 10, 15, 20 years ago, it's not to the same extremes. I don't know, but we're going to check this out. Maybe it's going to go into different topics that I don't know, but we're going to see anyway. And yeah, links are also in the description to my Patreon if you want to see some more of my reactions, but let's just check this out.
This video is sponsored by Exter. Welcome to the 1990s, the former Eastern Bloc, a beautiful, wealthy, inspiring place left behind by the dying, retreating Russian Empire. Suppose you wanted to do some shopping. Where will you go? Oh, I know, those beautiful Soviet-era shopping centers seen by many on those Soviet retro-themed social media pages, full of the finest wares of the Eastern Bloc. Sorry, I couldn't keep a straight face there. No, if you wanted to do shopping, you did not in fact go to the shopping center. Instead, you went where the rest of society went, to dismal outdoor markets, selling vegetables, knockoff clothing, homemade food preserves and so on, from cars, vans, often entire buses. It was chaotic, dirty, loud, often taking place on random sidewalks or in underpasses. As you milled around the makeshift stands in the crowd, looking at the knickknacks being sold, people haggling, old women counting coins in their hands, you thought of a photo you saw of an American shopping center. You called it a shopping center because you did not have a word for it yet. That is, the mall. Beautiful, clean, air-conditioned, full of Western stores and their wares, fast food restaurants like McDonald's and others you never even heard about, people strolling around wearing the latest fashion. Surely all of them are drinking Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola too, not this piss water they sell around here. Palm trees, fountains, colorful lights. You're pretty sure there is American rock music playing in the background.
That is the thing. Wait, he's probably going to explain, but I do want to just see malls. Where? Because it's going to say the US. I know it's going to say, but I just want to make sure. Wisconsin, 1950. Yeah, because when you go to malls, right, it is a lot of American stores. Like, even in Romania, you go to the malls, you'll still have your typical McDonald's, KFC, all like those restaurants, but also shops. I can't go off the top of my head, but like just typical clothes shops or whatever it is. You have a lot of American stores, also like German stores. There's a lot of like German places, like German shops in the Romanian mall as well. But yeah, there's a lot of US influence from malls, which obviously makes sense because I guess, yeah, they were a thing that were created here. But would there be malls in like, I mean, there is Chinese malls. Oh, sorry, malls in China. Would there be any like US stores in the malls in China? It's not going to say, is it? Maybe not. But yeah, man, fascinating as hell. I'm not going to lie.
2. You don't know, it was a photograph. Your thoughts are interrupted as you look down and realize you've stepped into shit, and an old lady is yelling at you to move from her stand if you ain't buying anything. The shopping mall was the ultimate symbol of 1990s Western prosperity, and it wasn't long before they spread through Europe too, including the former Eastern Bloc. Today, malls in places like Budapest, Prague or Warsaw are basically indistinguishable from their modern American counterparts, except for one thing. Malls in Europe are thriving, while in the US they are slowly dying out. Why is that? People often say it's because of Amazon and online commerce, but Europe has those too. Is it a purchasing power issue? But how? America is the richest country on the planet. Lots of full wallets over there. Though sometimes those wallets need replacement and additional company. This is where Exter comes in with their compact, stylish...
Always getting his money. Let's go, man. You love to see it.
Exter products till the 20th of June during Exter's Father's Day sale.
It's still on then. If you want to get a wallet for a cheaper price, then yeah, it's still going until the 20th of June.
Big thanks to Exter for sponsoring today's video, thus helping me make more content for you. And now, back to the program. So the most common arguments cited for the death of US malls is online commerce, the fact that people are now able to order from the internet from the comfort of their homes. And sure, online commerce didn't exactly help malls, but as I mentioned, online commerce is also very much present in Europe and malls over there are doing fine. So I'm comfortable stating that the decline of US malls is not because of online commerce, though it certainly didn't help. And so I've identified 3 actual key reasons which we will go through now, including the last one which no one talks about but is absolutely crucial in my opinion. In fact, that might be the most important reason for the death of US malls, and yet people seem to ignore it. So let's go through the reasons.
Purchasing power. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. In Romania, the average minimum wage is a lot lower, but the pricing of things is still the same price, if not even a little bit higher. Maybe not higher, but it's a similar price to what I'm used to in the UK, which doesn't make sense because you see a much lower minimum wage, but then the prices are the same. You'd sort of assume there'd be less people in the malls, if anything, but yeah, that is weird to me, to be fair. But I think it's because the cost of living there is cheaper in terms of how to like rent a house and stuff. It's a lot less, but still it's a much lower minimum wage, but the prices are the same from what I saw.
Malls are only alive as long as they have customers who can afford to buy their stuff. And in the US, this isn't the case everywhere. Entire regions lost their well-paying jobs as industry went offshore. Looking at the central US today, those libertarians weren't joking. The free market really took care of those regions. As high-paying jobs left, so did many people. Those who stuck around were considerably poorer and often couldn't keep many of the malls alive. So did this happen in Europe? Well, not really. European economies are built differently, especially those in the EU. Yes, there is a competitive capitalist market, but with important quirks. To illustrate this, let me talk about trains for a moment. A couple of weeks ago, I went hiking to the Czech Republic. First, I took a train from Leipzig to Chemnitz, where I met my friend. The next day, we took another train to Dresden. Both of these trains were operated by a company called Transdev. Then we went on to Liberec on a train operated by the company Die Länderbahn. Finally, from Liberec, we took a train operated by Arriva to Železný Brod. So private rail operators all the way. Or were they? Arriva is owned by Deutsche Bahn, the German state railway. Die Länderbahn is a Trenitalia subsidiary, which is the Italian state railway, and Transdev is majority owned by the French government. And these state-owned companies compete in free market tenders across the EU, where they try to offer the best price they can to local governments to provide rail service on a given line. Usually anyway. It's an interesting mixture of the private and the publicly owned. It's like a state capitalist free market, and it seems to be working pretty well. All this is to illustrate European economies work differently and aren't subject to the same types of shocks the US economy is. With very few exceptions, European purchasing power has been rising across the board, even in Central and Eastern Europe, the poorer parts indicated by this chart. And this increase has been more geographically even compared to the US, so there aren't any continent-sized, newly appeared economic black holes like the Rust Belt, or such enormous, unaffordable urban areas like on the West Coast. Also, in Eastern Europe, major regional economic depressions happened before malls came about, so local malls dodged that bullet, but they did something else in Europe, or rather, they didn't do something, which Americans did.
Oversupply.
American malls are exotic in the sense that there are so many of them. Copious amounts of commercial space was built out in the form of enclosed malls, outdoor malls, power centers, lifestyle centers, and so on. Consequently, there is a lot more commercial space.
Wait, this is not a US mall. This is the UK. This isn't a mall. This is just a shopping centre, or whatever you call them, just shops. This is definitely the UK. These Superdrug Iceland. Yeah, that's the UK for sure.
Per capita than in Europe. A lot more. Like 10 times more than Germany, for example. And in German cities where there is an oversupply, like Chemnitz, the city I've recently talked about, you get the same mall deaths. But Chemnitz is an exception because those malls and shopping centers used to have a demand base. It's just that following the fall of the Berlin Wall, people started leaving for former West Germany, and suddenly there was a commercial oversupply. But such a situation couldn't happen otherwise in Europe, as regulations that govern building new commercial space are far more stringent than in the US. Libertarians call this government red tape crippling the economy, while adults call it necessary regulations to avoid mass closures and urban decay. The large number of US malls also means they are of lower quality and more mass-produced. Take a look at this one, the former Metro Center Mall in Phoenix.
This is a mall. See, it's weird, right? Because the two malls in my city, one of them is literally built under a hill, so you don't really get to see the outside. But parts of it you can see, but it doesn't look this like it's falling away. Kind of falling apart, and the other one is kind of built in the ground as well, but it's like built in between shops, so you can't really see the top of it, so it's just sort of in the city, so you walk through and then you're in, like, there's like other shops on the street, but then there's just one entrance to the mall, and you go through and it's just sort of like built into the street, into the road, so you can't really see it. Like this one sort of is on its own. There's not malls like that in my city, so it's weird to see how they look from this angle, but because they look so big from the inside, but from the outside, obviously this looks big, but it doesn't look huge. But I guess it's sort of built underground, and obviously from the look out, it can be deceiving, right? Because I'm assuming, wait, this is all of it as well. Actually, maybe it is quite big.
Phoenix, Arizona. Why is it falling apart like that?
Oh,
What
God.
material did they use? Cardboard? If any country builds that many malls, it is inevitable that many of them will end up cheap and mass-produced, both inside and outside, both architecturally and in terms of what they offer. And the mass-produced, standardized, consumerist bullshit just isn't something people look for nowadays. Compare the Metro Center Mall to, say, Palladium in the center of Prague.
Oh, wow. And the mall that we went to in Romania, the city that my girlfriend's from, is incredible, man. It's all new. They've like done all the outside. It's beautiful, man. But look at that as well. That looks like a historical monument.
This is the facade of the mall. That's a real historical building into which they integrated the whole thing, and it continues on behind. It's a well-made building.
That's kind of like the one that I'm mentioning. Like, it's sort of built in, if that makes sense. It doesn't look the same, nowhere near as nice, but it's like built into the street.
And the interior is also high quality. It's actually right across an old Soviet-era shopping center too, so that's a neat callback to the start of the video. But Palladium is a positive example in something else as well. The third reason why US malls are dying. Namely,
Bad urban planning.
this is the issue I barely hear anyone talk about when it
Look at all the parking space. Oh my day.
comes to dying malls. Yes, purchasing power and oversupply are important, but where the mall is and what's around it is also just as important. Looking at Palladium, there's a tram stop right next to it, a metro station, and it's a corner away from Masarikovo, the commuter rail station. Palladium is very easy and convenient to get to. So what, you might say? US malls have ample parking, and they are easy to get to as well by car. Sure, but that's part of the problem. Car-centric US cities are more spread out, which means the mall will be further away from you. Now then, you want to buy an item. Say you want to find a birthday gift for your aunt or something. Do you then get in your car, drive down to the mall, get through a traffic jam, trudge across the parking lot, then look for a gift and then do the same process on the way back home? Or do you just go, fuck it, and order something from Amazon? With Palladium, even if I live on the outskirts, I can just go by metro and be there door to door in about half an hour. Once again, this is from the edge of the city. American malls are usually not built near any meaningful public transit. In fact, they are usually not built near any meaningful place. Compare these four.
Is this an abandoned mall, by the way, or is this mall still open? Because it looks desolate as hell. Well, not desolate, it looks deserted as hell, sorry.
European malls, 2 from Prague and 2 from Budapest, with these 4 American malls, from Phoenix, Las Vegas, Oklahoma City and Orlando. The reason why Amazon and similar online commerce platforms cannot compete with the first group but can threaten the second group is because malls in the first group are integrated into the city. The surrounding environment isn't just a parking lot. There are things to do and see, and you can end up in those malls even completely organically, as in unplanned, as part of you walking around downtown. With the second group, you have to make a conscious effort to go there. Nobody will trudge through a kilometer of parking lots on foot. The GPS won't take you there spontaneously. You have to make the decision at home to go there and then make the effort. Then companies like Amazon come along and say, hey buddy, we can save you all that effort. And so the malls are dying. Malls, hell, all commerce, has to be an organic part of towns and cities. People should be able to get to them by means other than a car, and conveniently. Such integrated commercial spaces are far more resilient. If your commercial spaces aren't resilient, if you just plop a big box outside the town, don't be surprised when it goes bust in a few years. And then it's bulldozed for the next thing to be put up, for it to go bust the same way, and then get bulldozed, and then the next thing, and the next, and the next, so on and so forth. And this is why many American malls are either dead or dying.
Is there any US malls that are like integrated? I'm assuming there are. Like, some US malls will be integrated into like streets and stuff. Because from what I'm seeing, they all look like they just sort of, the whole point of going here is to the mall. Like, it's on its own, there's nothing near it. There's a massive car park around it. And I mean, I'm sure there are malls like that in Europe and in the UK, but from what I've seen, they're always like built into like the surrounding things. Other than if it's like, there's a massive mall in London called Westfield. I think it's the biggest mall in the UK or in Europe, and that is kind of like you see a massive sign for Westfield. I feel like people go there for the mall, but because it's so big and you can get all kinds of things from there, it kind of makes sense in a way. Like, yeah, okay. And also the train that you get, or the underground, the London Underground, you get directly stops outside of it. But yeah, other than that, if it's not like a mall that stands out for whatever reason, whether it's size or it has like a theme park or something, it doesn't make sense why you'd just build it on its own. But at the same time, maybe it works in certain aspects. But yeah, they seem to be struggling with that kind of kind of thing.
In the end, it all comes down to policy, economic and urban planning. If you're an American and want to do something about this, Strong Towns is just the organization for you, fighting for the exact things I've mentioned in this video, aiming to create living, resilient, human-centric places instead of the mass-produced car-centric retail deserts.
I mean, fair enough. I wonder what people say. I wonder why our parking lots with one building in the middle aren't doing as well as we had hoped. US infrastructure is good for one thing, shooting zombie movies, because the buildings are so isolated they can be easily transformed into a fortress. That is true. As an Australian, I was shocked when I discovered American malls don't have supermarkets in them. What? I think that's been a big part of keeping Australian malls relevant. They have all the day-to-day stuff that keeps you going there regularly. I mean, to be fair, in London they have supermarkets. Yeah, to be fair, every mall that I go to has supermarkets, other than the malls in my city. Is there supermarkets? No, there's not supermarkets in the malls in my city. There's not. But to be fair, I mean, there's supermarkets like 2 seconds from each of them. And there are shops where you can get food from and all that. But yeah, there's no supermarkets in the malls in my city, but in general there are in UK cities. Malls are dying, but videos about abandoned malls are thriving. So we are heading in the right direction. Yeah, I mean, is it like a common thing to have like an abandoned mall in the US? And will they just stay there? Because that would be cool, man. Going to an abandoned mall. Wait, exploring. Is that a thing? It is. I would love to. This would be cool as hell, man. Imagine going to an abandoned mall. Like, you'd just obviously you can't get anything, but it'd just be like an experience, you know. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this reaction, and yeah, let me know your thoughts. And until next time, like, subscribe. Peace.